Pokémon Platinum has a postgame? I genuinely didn't know. I definitely hadn't heard that much about it, but it has one, and it's pretty wild. So I've just had a playthrough of the postgame of Pokémon Platinum, and I wanted to share some thoughts. Let's jump back into Sinnoh for a little while, and see what we uncover. So starting back in our cozy hometown of Twinleaf, we engage in a couple of what I've come to call post-game pleasantries, where our mum gives us a nudge towards where we can go next. But we're not going to be going to the shipyard in Snowpoint City just yet. There's a few things to check out here on the mainland before we go jumping on a ship. First of all, we're going to pay a visit to Professor Rowan in Sandgem Town. By this point, if you haven't skipped a bunch of stuff along the way with your journey, you'll have all 210 Pokemon in the Sinnoh Pokédex registered as seen. This triggers Professor Oak to rock up and upgrade your Pokédex to National Dex mode. So now you can encounter and register all Pokemon from generations 1 to 4. That's what I'm talking about. And with some of the new stuff we'll be able to do later on, this adds a lot of new value to the game. Something that will help with finding some of these National Dex Pokemon is found in the same town. The TV in Dawn's house informs us of swarms that are now sweeping the region. These are kind of a precursor to the mass outbreaks that we have nowadays. These change every day. It'll be a certain Pokemon on a certain route. I think I got a pretty decent first roll of the dice here, because I was informed of a Larvitar outbreak on Route 206. Didn't end up using it, but I'll never pass up an opportunity to catch a Larvitar, one of my absolute favourite pseudo-legendary lines. I then had a little amble around in the Great Marsh, which is this region's safari zone. I didn't spend all that much time in here, because getting stuck in the mud constantly wasn't the most exciting thing for me. I get that it's the Great Marsh, it's marshland, but it's a pretty expansive area. You can catch this little train between the numbered areas, but they do all look exactly the same. I think a teeny bit of difference in even just a couple of the areas would have been cool. There are differences in the spawns between the areas, and one thing I didn't know about those is that you can see some of the more specific spawns by looking through the binoculars upstairs in the entrance building. You've just got to try and be really good at remembering the area you've just been given a 2-second snapshot of. Because, as I said, it all kinda looks the same. Yeah, it's worth a look around though. There are some really cool Pokemon you can catch in here, and a bunch of extra Pokemon now you've unlocked the National Dex as well. If that's not enough rare Pokemon for you, you can also head over to the Trophy Garden. That's essentially just a patch of grass, but a lot of cool Pokemon spawn here as well. And if that's still not enough, Powell Park is now open and accessible. A short surf away from Sandgem Town, this is where you can transfer Pokemon up from Generation 3 games. You know, sometimes I think I forget just how nice we have it nowadays with Pokemon Home. Even having the Pokemon Bank to the Pokemon Home route. Because back in the Game Boy to DS days, they had us doing some pretty funky stuff to move our Pokemon up to the newest games. But yeah, you've got that functionality here. It takes advantage of the dual slots on the original Nintendo DS, where you can have both a DS game and a Game Boy Advance game plugged in at the same time. We also have some roaming legendaries lurking around the region in Platinum's postgame. The Kanto legendary birds are running around. I didn't run into them, but they're lurking around here somewhere. I actually think roaming legendaries could work better in modern games. Can you imagine if you were chilling around in the Asado Desert and Moltres just came swooping past? Just an idea. I got dragged on a quest to Full Moon Island to find a Luna Wing, because some kid in this house here in Canalave City has fallen into an endless nightmare. Look, sometimes I didn't want to go to school that day either, but I'd just fake a fever. I wouldn't go quite this far. But yeah, we get this Luna Wing by encountering the legendary Pokemon Cresselia, which drops it as it immediately flees from us. And now that's another legendary roaming the region. I believe Darkrai was available through an event of some sort too, but we're just a little bit late to the party for that. Regigigas is available to catch in Snowpoint Temple, but only if you have all the other 3 Regis in your party, which I didn't have. I think you have to transfer them up from a Gen 3 game, so I was just stuck staring at the statue here. Oh well. On top of all that, we can also catch Dialga and Palkia. All you need to do is grab the Adamant and Lustrous Orbs from within Mount Coronet, then fly over and talk to Cynthia's grandma in Celestic Town. Then Dialga and Palkia will become accessible encounters, one after the other, back up at Spear Pillar. Diamond and Pearl really are made redundant by this game, aren't they? I know this isn't the only game where the base version's box legendaries are catchable, but in most games' cases, I like to think that there's still value in playing those original versions. I still play Pokemon Silver and Pokemon Ruby, but I can't see any reason to play the original Gen 4 duo. But if you think there is, let me know your reasons in the comments. We can re-enter the Distortion world in the postgame. I was a little scared of this because I get completely lost every time I enter this place, but the area you enter in the postgame is actually different and much smaller than the area in the base game. Very linear and straightforward, which I was eternally grateful for. The reason for being here is to grab the Griseous Orb, which is the thing that allows Giratina to change between its forms. I want to see a 3D era Distortion world. I think this place could easily rival the Area Zero vibes. Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl made serious doo-doo in the bed in that area. Maybe someday though. We'll stay optimistic. Perhaps against our better judgment. But delusion can be fun. Join me. This is where we can start talking about the extra areas in the game. And this is where the post-game really did get kind of feral, because the amount of new routes that Pokemon Platinum's post-game introduced alone was wild. Venturing back into Victory Road, there's a stairway that was previously blocked off. Go down it, and you enter a new area where a girl called Marley introduces herself, and wants you to escort her through the cave, which is something this game liked to do a lot for some reason. We push through a bunch of double battles in here, and by the end of it, we emerge onto Route 224, which there's nothing much here. Some Pokemon to catch, a few trainers to battle. The main draw of this place is the mythical Pokemon Shaman, which is another event-only Pokemon that I don't have access to here, so we can move on pretty sharpish. Nice area though, it packs a few different biomes into this one short stretch. Okay, now let's head up to Snowpoint City and hop on that ship our mum was talking about at the very start. Cynthia rocks up to send us off with a moving little speech, then it's anchors away and slamming through the ice we go, across the frigid ocean to the Battle Zone area, which is this entirely new island for the post-game that would 100% be a paid DLC in today's world. But here we are. We're immediately greeted by Barry. Lovely to see him again. Can you read the enthusiasm in my voice? We enjoy a cheeky double battle alongside him against Flint and Volkner, before Barry's dad charges in and gives him a taste of his own medicine. Yeah, not nice, is it? Would not like to have grown up in the Barry household. What an absolute bullfighting ring that must be. This area here is called the Fight Area, and this is home to the Battle Frontier. We'll have a word or two on that in a couple of minutes. First, let's explore our new surroundings a little more, because there are a lot of routes to venture through here. Route 225 is one of those classic, early-gen, windy up and down routes, where the puzzly nature of it makes what is essentially a straight line pretty engaging to navigate. Gave a lot of Hoenn energy this one. Quickly passing through the survival area, which again we'll focus on in a minute, we enter Route 226. Again, a straight line, this time horizontal, but it takes advantage of rock climb to make it feel like we're actually masterfully scaling our way across it. It's only seeing it as one image like this that breaks the facade of it. Leading us then to Route 227. And you start to get the feeling now that there's something we're building up to here. Something big at the end of this. And you'd be right to think that, because as we advance north, we reach Stark Mountain, which, just look at this place for a start, this looks insane. I feel like this is the kind of environment that Game Freak hasn't quite gotten right yet in newer games. They haven't been able to capture it like the Sprite games have. Hopefully they can at some point. And up here we meet some familiar looking faces. Faces from Team Galactic. Following these grunts inside, we find Mars, Jupiter, and Charon. Mars and Jupiter immediately battle you because they simply refuse to believe that Cyrus has been defeated, while Charon has taken it upon himself to replace Cyrus as the leader of Team Galactic. No diplomacy here, he has just declared himself as the new boss. Mars and Jupiter then quit the group upon accepting that Cyrus is no longer in the picture. So things are kind of fractured and shifting around right in front of us here. You know what, I have never been a fan of Team Galactic. I've always thought they were kind of phoned in as an evil team, a bit one-dimensional, pretty typical take over the world types. But this little shift in power dynamics here has piqued my interest. We follow them deep into the mountain's interior, assisted by Buck. Have I mentioned Buck yet? He's a trainer from around these parts who quickly becomes an acquaintance of ours. He's actually really helpful to have as a doubles partner because he specializes in really bulky Pokemon. And I just want to say, this guy would make a 100 times better rival than Barry. I'll leave it there. Once we've chased Galactic into the deepest room of the cave, Charon grabs the Magma Stone, intending to use it to awaken the legendary Pokemon Heatran, and using it to create controlled eruptions from the volcano to extort money by the millions. Manufacturing environmental disasters? This guy's on the wrong team, I think. Suddenly though, a Krogunk appears out of thin air and snatches the Magma Stone away. Who is responsible for this sudden heroic feat? It's Looker, who disguised himself as a boulder? So many people don't reckon much to Looker. I think he's just fantastic. What commitment to the cause. Although I would really like to see firsthand just how one successfully disguises oneself as a boulder. If anyone can do it though, it's our boy Looker here. And so Charon is whisked away by the police, and Team Galactic's story appears to come to a definitive end. Kinda disappointed in a way. I would have been interested to see the changes Charon would have enacted within the group, how it could have been reshaped, who would have replaced the commanders they'd just lost. In fact, I'd still love to see what became of Mars and Jupiter after they quit the group here. I really didn't care about Team Galactic until this point, and suddenly I'm demanding more somehow. You truly never know what tomorrow will bring. So from here we can head back down to the survival area from earlier, where we can have a rematch with Barry. Apparently he's only standing here on weekends, but I just so happen to be doing this on a Sunday, so why not Barry, let's have one last dance. After that, if you speak to Buck, he'll take you inside his house here, which has been fitted out to be a Pokemon battle cafe kind of thing, but for a very select private clientele, those being Sinnoh gym leaders, and a few other trainers you've battled alongside during your playthrough. Pretty cool, I had a rematch against Wake here. I've grown on Wake a lot as I've played through Platinum, by the way. I think I just like the way that Barry is constantly trying to force a student and master kind of relationship there. And Wake's just like, dude, you're not my student. I don't have students, just go away and do your own thing. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. This interaction with Buck here also resets the room in Stark Mountain, so when you go back, Heatran is available to encounter and capture. I swear, hardest Pokemon catch of the game. In fact, I didn't catch it. I spent about half an hour throwing Ultra Ball after Ultra Ball after Ultra Ball, until eventually it struggled itself out, and I was not trying again. I don't even like Heatran that much. It'd probably be a good idea to bring some Dusk Balls to this. I just really wasn't prepared. Okay, more routes anybody? Because we've still got the sandstormy Route 228, a very green and luscious Route 229. I told you there were a lot of routes in the postgame. I'm not complaining here though, I kinda like it. This then brings us out to the resort area. There's not all that much to do here. There's the Ribbon Syndicate building that you can only enter if you've gotten 10 different ribbons on your Pokemon. I don't have any in this save, so you guys will have to fill me in on what happens in here, because peasants like me are sadly not allowed inside. And the other notable thing here is the villa, which this guy here literally just gifts to us the moment he sees us. Imagine walking up to a building and a guy standing out front is like, hey, do you want it? That's the economy I want to live in. Anyway, yeah, this is basically a secret base kind of deal. It's empty when you go in and you can decorate it however you like. This would go pretty hard in modern 3D games. I would spend so much time swagging this place up. And so, pretty much the final thing to tick off here involves trekking along one last route, that being Route 230, which circles us back around to the fight area, and the Battle Frontier. I hear a lot about this place. The Battle Frontier is something a lot of people think should be a non-negotiable staple in Pokemon postgames. Personally, I've never really given them a go. I'm not much of a battle enthusiast, but if you are, this is like heaven. You can throw yourself into single or double battles, and you basically just battle until you lose. And the more battles you win, the more battle points you accumulate, that you can then spend on competitive Pokemon items. I am watering this down massively, because I just did a couple of single battles to try it out. But you can make a hell of a challenge out of this. People post their crazy win streaks online a fair bit, and you can earn commemorative prints and all sorts of good stuff. At some point, I do want to give the Battle Frontier a real effort, just to see if I can catch the bug for it myself. And that's pretty much it. I cannot believe I slept on this postgame for so long. There was a lot in here. By the time I ended up at the Battle Frontier, things like checking out the Great Marsh and waking children from endless nightmares felt like a lifetime ago. I mentioned earlier, this would probably be a paid DLC nowadays, so I think it's really important to appreciate these older Pokemon post-games that take us to new areas and introduce new characters and new story points. And this might just be one of my favourites now, purely because of all the extra exploration we get to do. It's only a smallish island up here, but it felt like it almost doubled the size of the world with all the new routes we go down. And that is essentially what I want from a post-game. I could say there wasn't too much of a narrative to it, but it's post-game. It's what happens after the main story. And there was enough here to keep me engaged for sure. The highlights for me were probably catching both Dialga and Palkia, and Looker disguising himself as a rock. Never change, Looker. So I want to throw it over to you guys. Have you played through the Pokemon Platinum post-game? What did you think of it? If you played a lot of the Battle Frontier, I'd love to hear more about people's experiences with that. There's a lot to talk about here, so drop any thoughts you have down in the comments. While you're down there, please do drop a like on the video, that helps more than you think it would. Subscribe for more Pokemon content just like this. Special thanks to our channel members here. And of course, if you haven't already, join the Discord to chat with us all over there too. Thanks so much for watching, take it easy, and I'll catch you all in the next one.